the time being too sexual, being too violent, or something like that. But going to the present, do you think the WWE is getting too kid-friendly?
Maybe. I don't know that you can be too kid-friendly because, I think the best wrestling is something that grandpa could take your grandson to. There should be a little bit for everybody. Like WrestleMania usually, when I think of past WrestleManias, and even this one, there's something there for everybody. But I would go so far to say that they really need to shine the light on the wrestling a little more. There's so much more, too much talking, too much Stephanie McMahon and Triple H.
Hey guys, this is Reece Deans of the Deansy Boy Show, and I got a special treat for you. The other night I attended a one-evening event with the one and only, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be, Bret the Hitman Hart. And it was run by Kayfabe Events, and I just wanted to give Kayfabe Events just a big shout out to say thank you so much for helping me get an exclusive conversation, recorded conversation, you could say, like a short brief interview with Bret Hart. I'll tell you brief what happened at the event before I go into this, before I move on with the conversation. What happened was I approached Jason, who runs Kayfabe Events, and I asked him if I can just briefly have a chat with Bret Hart, record it, and do like a little short 5 or 10 minute podcast. And he said it was no problem, but it was up to Bret Hart himself. And he said that it's best to be last, because when people are out the way, I got 5 or 10 minutes just with him, and I sat down and just having a nice chat. But I didn't get to interview him until 1 a.m. in the morning. And I'll tell you why. The problem was that Bret, there was a rule. One of the rules was that the wrestler who's in being asked questions or hosting whatever, he was given freedom to engage with the fans more, have a nice casual chat, and that's what the wrestlers, that's what Bret Hart wanted. And some of these conversations lasted 5 to 10 minutes, and sometimes it got really irritating. And I was the last person on the queue because I wanted to interview him. But in the end, I got there, and on this interview, he starts mentioning about wrestling with shadows, Owen Hart, his father Stu, and what Stu done as a practical joker. So I won't keep most of your time, but here it is, the original audio material. Enjoy. Just wondering about Wrestling with Shadows. I always watch it, and it's one of my favourite wrestling documentaries. But I always wondered what was the original purpose for the documentary before the
There wasn't one.
There wasn't.
So they didn't really know. They just wanted to. Paul J, the producer, that he saw me on a interview talking on TV, and he decided to do a documentary on me, and they approached me about it. And then I went to Vince with it, and Vince okayed it, and they had permission, and they followed me around.
Yeah.
But right up until they filmed my whole story, right up till they wrapped up shooting at the end of September, as I remember.
Okay, yeah.
It was done. And they had the whole film in the can, but they had all the footage.
Okay.
And they were trying to piece it together, and it was the week before the Montreal Screwjob. And there, Paul J called me. He goes, "We got some great footage. We got pictures of you with kids, and at the hockey games, and at signings and different things." And he goes, "Well, we don't have an ending to this. We got lots of stuff, but there's nothing. There's no hook. There's no way." And so I had said to Paul J, I said, "Well, I'm going to have my last match in Canada on the weekend. I'm switching. I'm going to WCW," which he didn't really know much about. He knew a little bit of the intricacies, but wasn't privy to the documentary.
Oh, okay.
So he said, "Well, we don't have an ending." And I said, "Why don't you film my last match in Canada? Maybe that's a way to end it.
Yeah.
I wave at the crowd or something at the end, and it's right into the sunset." And he goes, "Well, we'll come and film it." So that day when I showed up in Montreal, they weren't supposed to be there, but they had all their stickers were good for the year.
Yeah.
All their backstage passes and stuff. And when you see Paul J's camera crew comes in, the back of I think there's a part in there in the documentary where they show us all coming in the building, me and my kids, and we come in. But Vince and Sean and Triple H and Jerry Briscoe and whoever else was involved, they've been planning for 2 to 3 days, like they're going to screw me. And it's all in motion. And when I walked through that back door with that camera crew, Vince was like, oh, God.
That's all you need, you know.
And so they didn't know what to do. They couldn't tip their hand that they were going to screw me. Yeah. And those documentary guys, they would just say, I remember Paul J goes, I had a hunch something like this was going to happen. So I remember going, he asked me, he goes, do you think they're going to try to screw you? Or, you know, and I remember saying, they might try, but I don't think they'll get away with it. I was determined not to let it happen, and that's where that whole story. You know.
Oh, fair enough. And just one last question, so we can all go home, go to bed, and everything like that. Your brother Owen, nothing to do with the matches or his passing, because I didn't get a chance. I was only 3 or 4 when he passed on. But as a person, as an individual, what was he like, and what was he like in the wrestling business?
Owen was the most easygoing, lovable, kind-hearted, funny guy. Couldn't resist a practical joke.
Yeah.
Couldn't stop. If he saw a joke waiting to be done, or a prank on anybody, whether it was Vince or me or my dad or anybody, he couldn't resist, and he would rib everybody over and over and over.
Do you think he get it from someone, like anyone in the family, like your dad?
He got it from my dad. For sure. My dad was a master prankster.
Yeah. Especially shows in the documentary as well, because in the dungeon scene where he's like, oh, you were talking about that one guy who's like he's a punk kid. He's like, oh, I'll go into the movies. He was like, yeah, all right. Then he puts him in the movie. Yeah. He's like, oh, okay. Oh.
They used to do these things back in the 40s and 50s. They used to call them Mabel parties.
Mabel parties.
And my dad was he perfected them, and he did them lots of times on wrestlers. But what they were was they'd start talking about some girl that's really hot and really good looking, and her husband's going to be out of town and all this. She puts on a big party for everybody, and she's pretty easy, very flirty kind of.
So easygoing kind of.
An easy shag kind of thing. So it's all set up, and it's like nobody's wife. It's just some good-looking girl, and they take her out in a house and out in the country, way out, and it's like her husband's gone, and it's all set up. And they talked. I don't know if you ever remember wrestler Antonio the Great.
Yeah, I done research.
He's a big fat guy, big bearded guy. They used to pull trucks and stuff. But anyway, they ribbed him. And they talked about this girl and how she wanted to meet. She got big men or whatever it was, and they built this whole thing up. And then they all go to this woman's house for this party. And they all go inside, and there's a girl there, and she's a pretty hot-looking girl, and she's flirting with everybody, and everyone's like, "Wow, she's the real deal," and all that stuff. And she likes you. And they build it all up, and then the husband comes home. Right when she's like maybe kind of flirting with him and getting in a room, they're alone in the room and all that.
And someone goes through the window.
a fake husband, like a pretend, he's usually another wrestler that maybe they don't know, comes in and he's the husband. Yeah. And he had a shotgun with blanks. And he would come in, and then he'd shoot one of the other wrestlers with the blanks. Boom! And then the wrestler with the ketchup all over his chest and falls down, and then Antonio the Great comes out of the room, and it's like the injured wrestler's like, run, run, and they're in the middle of nowhere, and Antonio the Great, who's like about 500 pounds, ran for like 40 miles back to tell the police, went to the police station, and they killed and anyway, the police go out, and all the wrestlers are sitting in the room drinking and having a big party.
Like, what happened?
And then the Mountie would come back out and go, it's bad in there. And anyway, it was like always these. My dad mastered those ribs back in the 40s, and he was famous for them. And if you wonder where Owen got it from, you don't have to look far from them.
No, don't look far. Oh, thank you very much, Brad, and it's very time. Thank you very much for doing this. Thank you very much. Good to see you too.